The real estate market's going through a bit of a rough patch right now, making it more of a challenge to sell your home. RE/MAX's Sam Correa is here to discuss some of the phrases we see a lot during advertising for homes, what you should look out for. We were just talking, I just bought a house, so a lot of the stuff's very familiar to me right now. You see these words. Take us through some of the stuff you see the most when people are selling homes.
Well, you only have one chance at that first impression online, and certainly you want to make sure your agent is using the proper terminology. I did some research this morning. Out of 5,700 listings, I found maybe top five things I see the most. So actually there's 486 terms of the word character unique right now online. And
what does that mean, character? If it's a character home, is that something I want to see?
In theory, a character charm sounds great. And it's something you look for. In our world as realtors, that's a huge red flag that it's probably bad.
And why is that? The characters that it's old and gross, or what?
Unique is often in our world term as a white elephant. It's something that's harder to sell. It's usually something we don't look for or putting terminology if it's more of a turnkey home. So that's a red flag I would look for. Often what you think it is not.
It's not the case. Let's go to number 4 here. Another one I saw a lot of. Show homes.
Show home right now, there's about 195 terms in MLS for
when
show
I see former show home, I'm thinking, oh, that's a brand new built house in the suburbs. It's only probably been up for 6 months and now they're selling it. But I'm wrong thinking that.
Realistically, I see homes that were built in the 50s that the agent says this is a former show home. And realistically, it looks like it did in 1950. So that's something that in our world, it basically means it's untouched. Be aware you might have to go in there and renovate that house.
So that's the key, is ask what era was this a show home in, and that's how you know.
Well, definitely if it's 1950 and it says former show home, you know it's what you're going into could be a full reno.
Yeah, got it. Okay, number 3.
I love this term because it's often in some real estate terminology. I see seller motivated. I just see the word motivated, but you really have to ask yourself, is it realtor motivated too? So often, is the realtor more motivated to sell it than the seller?
Because absolutely, I'm sure motivated sellers, such people I think look for that or want to believe that this person's they're getting out of town, they're willing to take a loss on this house kind of thing. That's not necessarily the case.
Not necessarily the case. It's a term that I think is overused. And be careful on what you think about that when you go in there.
Okay, number 2, what are we at now?
So we're down to suites, and this is something that you should be aware of. It's, when you see it in the terminology, is it a non-conforming suite? Because the suite is there doesn't necessarily mean it's legal. And usually a suite is referred to, an up and down suite, or if it's a 2-story in a residential area, it's probably non-conforming, which means you shouldn't be buying that based on future income, because of course it might not be approved.
And no surprise here, the number 1 term that you see the most.
I see this in comments the most, and the big one for me is that right now there's about 1,100 listings out of 5,000 that is mentioning the word price. And so that's about 20% of all listings say the word price in there. As I look through it mostly, I find it very comical because the term price under assessed value, that is something that is a red flag as well. It's, that is not something that you should be putting a lot of value on.
And why is that? I know there's some good reasons for this.
There's many reasons on this, of course, but the big one, of course, is that value was based in a previous market, in a higher price market. So I would hope that it's probably priced less than a heated market. And again, don't put too much weight on that. Make sure you have your agent do his analysis and before you put any offers in on any properties. Absolutely. But top 5 terms you should look for when looking through real estate.
Awesome, you did the math and everything. I appreciate that. You got percentages there.
Got kind of prepared today.
Thanks a lot, Sam.
Thank
we
you very
appreciate
much.
that. RE/MAX's Sam Correa. For more information, head to samcorrea.ca.
The Market, sponsored by Sam Correa of RE/MAX House of Real Estate.